There is a certain allure with these accidents that have taken place on various film sets. For some people, the draw is the sheer morbid discussion that ensues when these events are brought up. For others, it's the fact that Hollywood is exposed more and more through discussion of their accidents that stemmed from malpractice. The lengths at which some of these directors go just to get the perfect shot in their movie is nothing short of dreadful. And a lot of these incidents get boiled down to headlines and morbid fandom. The point of this series of videos is to get to the bottom of these events and tell the truth behind what happened on each film, set the record straight on whose fault it was, and uncover just how messed up the filmmaking business truly is. There's hundreds of these accidents to choose from, each one with their own intricate story leading up to a day that nobody would ever forget about. So let's dive back into some more disturbing accidents caught on film. But just before that, I have to tell you all how I've been getting out so many videos lately. GFUEL. I've been completely obsessed with their blue ice flavor, mostly because I'm just a fan of blue flavored things, but not only does it come packed with a delicious taste, it's also super low calorie and bang for your buck. One tub of GFUEL has been enough to last me nearly an entire month, with each tub coming with nearly 40 servings each. And they are extremely easy to make. Just grab a cup, throw in 1 scoop of the formula, and throw in 12 to 16 ounces of water. Then just shake it up till it looks good enough to drink, and boom, you've made your very own GFUEL infused drink. Of course, if you have one of their shaker cups, this will make things a lot easier to enjoy some GFUEL. So if you want to support the channel, please go check them out below. They have treated me so well and are honestly one of the best sponsors that I've had on the channel. Their drinks are amazing, and they're giving you all 20% off your cart if you use code Theorist at checkout. It's a win-win. You all get a delicious drink, and I get some much needed support to make better videos. Seriously, you won't regret it. And thank you to GFUEL for sponsoring this installment of the Film Accident series. Now let's jump into the first accident on today's video. Mountain climbing is one of the most dangerous activities that one can partake in. There is so much that can go wrong in such a short amount of time. Now throw in cameras, an entire crew set, and a deadline for production into the mix, and you'll get the situation that we had during the filming of the Eiger Sanction, a film released in 1975 that was directed by none other than Clint Eastwood. He also starred in the film as Dr. Jonathan Hemlock, a college art professor and part-time assassin hired to track down a man that happens to be climbing the Eiger Mountain in Switzerland. Seeing as the plot heavily involved the Eiger Mountain, there was a lot of preparation required before any type of filming took place. In fact, Clint Eastwood overall did a pretty good job as director to ensure the safety of his crew, even going as far as having lightweight cameras developed just for this movie. He also took the help of 2 other people that were eventually hired on to aid in the production, specifically when it came to the Eiger Mountain scenes. Those 2 hires were known as David Knowles and Mike Hoover. Clint Eastwood had Mike Hoover take him through a ton of mountain climbing practice before even thinking of filming on location, with Knowles acting as a climbing stunt and also aiding in the photography of the entire production. As Mike Hoover has gone on to explain since the incident, it was a beautiful morning the day that it happened. They took a chopper up to the west ridge of the Eiger and were tasked with finishing some very difficult setups. A little after 3 o'clock, they had finished what they had to do with the face of the mountain and began climbing back up to the top to finish filming on a flat area of the Eiger. But then Hoover recalled that he needed a specific POV shot of rocks falling. They were to shoot some fake rocks falling off the side of the mountain, and as he was making his descent back down, David Knowles offered to help, and so the 2 went into position. Overall, it was a pretty simple shot. The foam rocks would be dropped towards the camera, and David Knowles, who was handling the camera, would simply swipe any away, acting from the character's point of view. Literally nothing went wrong. They got the shot and everything was pretty normal. Mike Hoover told David Knowles to go back up and that he'd finish cleaning, but Knowles insisted on staying and helping pick up the mess that they made. And for the most part, they were kind of just shooting the shit, as two people do in any workplace, telling each other stories back and forth about themselves and just getting to know each other. Hoover said it was when the two began laughing that tragedy struck. A boulder had come loose from above and flew directly at the pair. Hoover explained that this is what happened from his perspective. He was laughing, then he heard a noise, and then he instantly took cover by tucking as close to the wall as possible. The rock then smashed into a bit of his back, and suddenly he found himself pinned to the ground. When he looked up, he was met with a horrifying sight. His crewmate David Knowles lifeless on top of him. Hoover suffered from a cracked pelvis, which put him out of commission for at least a week, and director Clint Eastwood surprisingly did the right thing in the events following this, wanting to stop production entirely because of what had just happened. The other members of the climbing crew kept insisting that Eastwood finish the production, stating that they all as climbers know the risks of being there and doing what they do. Clint Eastwood eventually came around, believing that if he were to call off the production, it would mean Knowles died for no reason. As far as stories go, this one was a lot different than the others that we've gone over. Usually there is some type of malpractice involved, a safety precaution that wasn't followed, or just plain ignorance on one person's behalf. But there wasn't any of that in this story. Eastwood did all of the proper training leading up to being on set of the production. He had proper equipment made just for the project, and he hired the right guys for the job. Sometimes you can do everything right and still have tragedy strike. But there is one silver lining here. A Blogspot article exists that posted Hoover's full side of the Eiger Mountain incident. Hidden away on that blog, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, are some very lighthearted comments about David Knowles, with some of his neighbors even chiming in, talking about how keen of a climber he was and how great of a person he is, and others sharing wholesome stories about how they met him through mountain climbing. So despite the horrific accident that took place all those years ago, it's nice to know that David Knowles likely went out doing the very thing he loved the most. From the other stories that we've gone over in all my videos on film accidents, usually there is a lot of blame on the director causing someone else to perish. This is a unique case where the director of the movie was the cause of their own demise. Sort of. Now I might pronounce this name wrong, but I'm going to be pronouncing it like this for the rest of this segment. So, H.B. Halicki is the director for the first Gone in 60 Seconds, which was a film released in 1974. Made famous for its focus on automotive action sequences and stunt work, specifically infamous for its nearly 40-minute car chase scene where the production team destroyed 93 cars in order to make it happen. And I'm not kidding. I'll leave this in the description. It's literally 40 minutes of classic car chase action. Now, because of how well received the first movie was, it was a no-brainer to make a second one. But there was a lot of pressure to make it even bigger and better than the first. The director was even forced to purchase $8 million in insurance before making the sequel, because a local official didn't believe that Halicki took his safety seriously. And seeing as how this story would eventually turn out, I think that official may have had a point. The year was 1989, and Halicki was looking to keep up his promise of making a bigger and better film, purchasing well over 400 vehicles to be involved in some crazy action-packed sequence that contained the so-called ultimate stunt, a real falling water tower that was supposed to be the climax to the entire scene. And quite the scene it was. What remains of the sequence is on YouTube, and it was some truly crazy shit. Cars flying everywhere, vehicles climbing over top of other cars demolition style, all topped off with the movie's star vehicle, the Slicer, which did some gnarly damage to everything in sight. It was shaping up to be exactly what Halicki had envisioned. That was until it came time for the climactic water tower sequence. The support cables for the tower suddenly snapped, causing it to fall prematurely. As everyone else dove for safety, the tower knocked down a telephone pole that crushed Haliki before he had time to move out of the way. I'll admit, I was quick to dismiss this story as nothing more than just a freak accident. In fact, I wasn't even going to make a segment on it until I read an article by a man named Michael McCann, who posed a pretty interesting point that I gotta be honest, I hadn't even really considered. Why was all of this allowed? I mean, this was literally insane to have all of these real life-size cars being destroyed and then to have a real life-sized water tower fall to top the entire stunt off. It makes you wonder, why couldn't he just do the stunt on a smaller scale? That's literally what every other movie does. As McCann puts it, Haliki's death raises questions about the adequacy of safety procedures for the stunt, and even whether the stunt should have been attempted in the first place. The collapse of the water tower could have been done on a smaller scale model, according to stunt experts. And this is very true. I feel like the pressure from the public for Haliki to outdo his first movie may have pushed him into wanting every single thing to be authentic, when surely he could have just done everything on a miniature level and ensured the safety of everyone, including himself. And for those in pursuit of the authenticness of everything, wanting to see the real thing happen on screen, you gotta ask yourself, is it really worth risking people's lives in the process? I mean, in this case, it's said that all the safety checks were done and it was just chalked up to a freak accident. And it was an accident. I want to make it clear that I don't think anyone in this incident is to blame. I'm not blaming Haliki for wanting to outdo his original, because honestly, I think that's what everyone would do in that position. I just think this is an interesting case where we should kind of question, had there been more safety precautions in place to quality control these stunts and decide which ones we can or can't do, would this have even had a chance to happen? Peer pressure. It's one of the few things that basically everyone experiences at some point in their life. From being forced to take your first drink to acting a certain way in public because that's what you think is expected of you. It's a powerful thing that acts on us whether we want it to or not. And it's an important concept to note before we talk about the next two events, because although they were preventable on paper, I think both are cases where peer pressure or just the pressure from other aspects of life caused them to happen. Let's talk about the first one. This is Incident in a Ghostland, a lesser-known horror film written and directed by Pascal Laugier. It's a psychological thriller about two sisters and their mother and some strange events that take place at their home. After having watched the movie, I can tell you firsthand that I enjoyed it for the most part, but I don't think I could give a synopsis of it without spoiling some major details. For those that have watched it, you most likely understand what I mean, but overall, if you are into horror movies that dive into real family trauma and that are creatively raw, this is a pretty good watch. So the two sisters in the movie have older and younger versions of themselves. The actress that plays the younger version of Vera is the person in question. Taylor Hickson was the actress that played this role, and she did a damn good job. So much in fact that her commitment to the role caused herself permanent disfigurement. During a scene where her character is supposed to pound on a pane of glass, Taylor Hickson was instructed to give it her all. And with each subsequent take, the director kept pressing for her to hit the glass harder and harder. This made Hickson question the director on whether or not it was safe to do so. The director assured her that there would be nothing to worry about. And so, Taylor Hickson carried on pounding on the glass as hard as she possibly could. As expected, the glass eventually gave, shattering and causing severe cuts to Hickson's face and upper body, and the injuries were pretty serious. I feel like it's so easy to read these stories and be unimpressed by a simple cut, but I'm going to show you a picture of Taylor right after the incident. I'll obviously give you a few moments to skip past this if you really want to, because I do think it's a bit more on the gruesome side. If you don't do well with the sight of blood or anything of the sort, this is your chance to skip past. I'm only showing this because I really believe it's important to understand the severity of the injury so we as a whole can empathize with Taylor in regards to the story. So, here is a picture taken shortly after the glass incident, requiring nearly 70 stitches as well as laser and silicone treatment. And all of this is coming directly from the court documents. Points 12, 13, and 14 exhibit exactly what I just went over. The lawsuit also goes over how it was totally within reason to expect the crew to ensure that safety glass was used, because in the event that safety glass somehow broke, it would not result in sharp shards that could cause damage like this. Obviously, neither of these safety precautions were taken in Taylor's case. And to me, this was akin to peer pressure, or at the very least, some kind of pressure, right? Like having tons of cameras on you, a crew of people waiting for you to perform in a scene, and a director pressuring you into doing something that you're just unsure of. These are all qualities that a lot of actors find themselves in every single time they go to film. And some of them are not so lucky to end up alive after what they are forced to do.
They're brave, but a little backwards.
Where's he going?
They're daring and dashing.
That was 20 years ago.
The return of the Musketeers.
The last film in a series adaptation of Alexander Dumas' novels, also known as being the last film that Roy Kinnear would appear in. This story is very reminiscent of what you are used to from the series. Roy Kinnear, who played Planchet in The Return of the Musketeers, was asked to shoot a scene that involved a horse and a wooden bridge. Kinnear was confused upon learning that they wanted him to do this very dangerous stunt. It's been made clear since that tragic day that he expressed concern over the stunt and spoke with various stuntmen on set about his fear over doing what the director wanted. And it's here that I have to make it clear that he was never offered a stunt double, which made absolutely no sense because Kinnear made it well known that he had no experience horseback riding. So to not just ask any actor, but an actor who has no experience doing a dangerous stunt, to then go and force them to do a dangerous stunt is just plain stupid. It's literally asking for an accident to happen. This didn't matter to Richard Lester, the director that pressured Roy to do the stunt despite all the obstacles in their way. Roy's son Rory later gave an explanation as to what happened in an article on The Guardian, explaining that his dad wrote a letter to his mom just before he set off, saying, "Just about to do a stunt that even the stuntmen have said is too dangerous." Citing himself, they all knew, and yet the shot was still prioritized over the safety of actors. And this is where we have to touch on why these accidents mostly happen. Of course, some of them are true accidents, such as the Eiger Mountain incident, but a lot of them can be chalked up to directors needing to get that thrilling shot that is almost always at the expense of someone's well-being. And despite all of the pushback, Roy Kinnear was ordered to do the scene. So it began, and like predicted, he fell off his horse, causing massive pelvic injuries and internal bleeding. And unfortunately for Roy Kinnear, he would succumb to his injuries later on in the hospital. His family obviously sued the director Richard Lester on the grounds of exposing an actor to unnecessary risks while filming, with their main piece of evidence being the fact that Roy was never offered a stunt double. The Kinnear family rightfully won the case, settling for nearly £650,000, and leaving Richard Lester with the forced choice to quit making films because of the accident. Since then, Rory Kinnear, the son of Roy Kinnear, has been part of the filmmaking industry himself, and has even spoke out against the Musketeers production years later when another accident cost the life of Mark Milsom, a cameraman whose life was taken during a car stunt in 2017. Rory went on to say, "I've certainly seen huge stars feel cowed into doing something that they've not wanted to do. 5 years have passed. We are making this tragic date by demanding mandatory health and safety education for all crew working in film and television." A lot of contrarians out there in the world seem to believe that as the person being asked to do these crazy stunts, it's your job to say no. But I pose another question. Why is it always on the person being coerced into doing these stunts to say no? There shouldn't even be a situation where someone has to choose between a life-threatening situation or business as usual. Of course, they always have the option to not do it. But when your livelihood is at stake, especially in such a cutthroat business as filmmaking, where your name can get dragged in the mud at the snap of a hat, it's no wonder these accidents happen. And these are just the ones that I'm able to find information on. I can't even begin to tell you all how many accidents I see are talked about on IMDb, but when I go to look up lawsuits and articles, radio silence. Nothing to be found. And it's most likely because companies were able to quickly take care of the situation behind closed doors before it became a bigger issue. And that's the problem I have with these accidents. And that's why I'm going to continue to make these videos. I'll admit, when I posted my first video on film accidents, it was just a quick way for me to put out a video that week and get some quick views. But the more and more videos I put out and the more I researched these things, it's quickly became evident that not just Hollywood, but the filmmaking business as a whole has big issues surrounding the safety of cast and crew. So if everyone else is too afraid to talk about it, then I guess I will. And I don't think I'm some hero for having a keyboard and the ability to Google stuff. I think anyone can do that. I just think there isn't enough coverage on real details behind these events. So I hope that in every video I've been able to bring to light some of these victims' true thoughts and feelings regarding their stories. And that will bring us to the end of today's video. You guys are amazing. Like, literally, as I'm recording this, the film accident series, the last one I just put out, the last film accident video, has been doing amazing. It's like becoming slowly one of the most high performing videos on the channel, and I'm just blown away. Maybe this style change was something that I should have been doing the whole time. I really enjoy doing it. You know, I like this setup. I like the way I have my set up, literally, you know, the set design, I guess. And it's been fun. So if you're new to the channel, I'd recommend just keeping an eye out for new videos. I don't really have a lot of videos with this style. If you want some off rip that I know of off the top of my head that are kind of similar to this, I would recommend my video on Die Fantasy, the Don't Search This video on YouTube, and the Disturbing Effect of Child Neglect. Those are definitely 3 videos that are in this similar style. There's also a few other ones that are like more video essay oriented like this, where I put a lot more care into the sound design, specifically the video on Baphomet Kun. But regardless, if you're new to the channel, thank you for watching. It's because of newer people and my loyal viewers that have been watching me for a long time that I'm able to do what I do. I love this job, and I'm going to continue to put all my effort into making just some great videos for you all. And that will bring me to the Patron Shoutout. So if you are on screen, thank you. Dude, the Patreon has been growing so fast. Maybe it's because the price changed to $3. You can get literally everything on the Patreon for only $3 now. Uncensored content, behind the scenes stuff, and just a lot of cool things you can get for just supporting me a little bit. So if you're on screen, again, thank you a lot. These people that you're reading on screen are not on screen for no reason. A lot of YouTubers kind of just throw up these names and just let people, you know, have them fly by super fast. But these are the people that are making this channel happen. And I just wanted to give a massive thanks and shout out to everybody, because you've all been so kind and loyal and supportive, and I just cannot be more thankful. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave it all at that. I hope that I'm able to continue to bring amazing videos to you all, and I hope that you all continue to watch me. I do have a new series coming out soon. Hopefully I can figure out a way to kind of hone in on this more atmospheric style with it. I think I will be able to, but I guess we'll see in the coming weeks, right? So with all that said, I will see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching.